Welcome to this documentary on one of Canada's most chilling cryptids, the Dogman, also known as the Werewolf of the North. For centuries, tales of a bipedal, wolf-like creature have haunted the wilderness. From ancient First Nations lore to modern-day sightings, we'll explore reports, encounters, and even official investigations. Is it myth, monster, or something in between? Let's dive into the shadows. Long before European settlers arrived, First Nations peoples across Canada told stories of wolf-like beings. These legends are independent of French or British influence, permeating the folklore of British Columbia, the Prairie Provinces, and the Northern Territories. In the subarctic forests, the Dean Indians spoke of man-wolves with human bodies and wolf heads. The Carrier people of central British Columbia shared tales of a dogman-like creature, a hairy being with human form known as the ghastly wolf, or Yesu, one of the goblins in their lore. Further north, the Gwich'in described similar entities in their oral traditions. Among the Blackfoot, werewolf stories involve shapeshifters who transform into wolves. The Plains Cree have sagas of Wesekachak, a trickster who turns into a wolf through tears and incantations. I will be a wolf. I will be a wolf. In the Fraser Delta, the Salishan and Sahaptin tribes recounted dog-headed men lurking in the wilderness. The Kaska people of northern BC and Yukon have their own Dogman story, where these beings are seen as guardians or omens. These accounts portray the Dogman not just as a predator, but sometimes as a spiritual entity tied to the land, shapeshifters, protectors, or warnings from the spirit world. With the arrival of French settlers in the 1600s, the loup-garou, or werewolf, entered Canadian lore. Coureurs de bois, the runners of the woods, brought tales from France, blending them with indigenous stories. In Quebec, sightings date back to New France. In 1766, the Gazette de Quebec reported a werewolf stalking outside Quebec City's walls, disguised as a beggar. It was said to prey on travelers heading toward Montreal. Other reports from the 1600s described loup-garou terrorizing the colony. Honoré Beaugrand's 1892 story, Le Loup-garou, depicts a trapper encountering a band of these creatures in the backcountry. These European werewolves were often cursed humans, transforming under the full moon, a contrast to the more spiritual First Nations dogmen. Yet, overlaps exist. Both are bipedal, intelligent, and fearsome. Some suggest Viking explorers brought similar Norse werewolf myths even earlier. Fast forward to today, and dogman sightings persist. Websites like dogmanencounters.com catalog dozens from Canada, including Alberta, Ontario, and New Brunswick. In northern Ontario, a horrifying encounter involved a rabbit-like dogman frothing at the mouth, long and gangly. The witness described it as hard to kill, with a hunter named Patrick claiming to have wounded several. Near Barry's Bay in central northern Ontario, Santiago saw a dogman while visiting his girlfriend, a horror movie-style sighting in 2021. In Alberta, near Coleman and Crousnest Pass, a Class A encounter described a beastly dogman in the wilderness. New Brunswick, an eyewitness reported a dogman lurking in the woods, never looking at the forest the same way again. While rare, some encounters involve authorities. In one Ontario case, police arrived after eerie shadows and growls, but questions blurred as no clear animal was identified. Fish and game reports are scarce, but in cryptid circles, sightings in national parks like Land Between the Lakes, near Canadian borders, prompt wildlife expert involvement. No definitive matches to known animals. In Quebec, Historical Gazette reports treated werewolf sightings as news, implying official concern. Modern investigations by groups like the North American Dogman Project note Canadian parallels to U.S. cases, with no conclusive evidence from authorities. Some stories turn tragic. In 1980, Tennessee's Lost Creek, near Canadian lore influences, saw sisters Vicky Stout and Carla Atkins mauled, blamed on dogmen. Though U.S., similar to Canadian wilderness attacks. In Canada, whispers of unsolved maulings in remote areas tie to dogmen, but officials rule them as bears or wolves. First Nations spirits to modern terrors, the Canadian dogman endures. Whether folklore or flesh and blood, it reminds us the wilderness holds secrets, Share your stories in the comments. Have you encountered the beast? Subscribe for more cryptid docs. Thanks for watching.